Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another round of sound. This is the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. I'm Bob Pompeani. Thanks for joining us tonight. The Steelers, well, their season is almost over. Unbelievable night at Heinz Field, one that not many people, if anyone, saw coming. 28 first-quarter points by Cleveland, a complete implosion by the Steeler offense. We have a lot to digest tonight and a lot to debate tonight, and we're going to do that as we devote just about all of our time to the Steelers, what happened now and what happens in the future. And here's your panel tonight on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. We have Rich Walsh, my colleague over in Studio B. We have Josh Yohe, does great work with The Athletic down below, and Paul Zeise of the Paul Zeise program up at 93.7 The Fan, and of course columnist with the Pittsburgh Post-Gazette. All right, gentlemen, let's start with this. Paul Zeise, last two home playoff games, we saw 45 points surrendered to Jacksonville in a game that wasn't as close as the score indicated. And tonight we're going to see 45 points allowed in a game that's not as close as the final score will indicate. They start 11-0, they end 1-5, third straight year. Was this the worst loss of the Mike Tomlin era?
Well, it was the worst playoff loss. I don't know if it was the worst loss, but it was the worst playoff loss. I think this is even worse than the Jacksonville loss, just because when you think about it, I mean, the Browns didn't practice all week. They didn't have their head coach. They didn't have 4 assistants. They didn't have a bunch of other guys that were out with COVID. But more importantly, it's not so much even that. It's just the way that the Steelers played. It was an absolute embarrassment. They were down 28-0 by the end of the first quarter. That's all you need. I mean, we can, and I'm sure we're going to, get to, some of the decision making and some of the going for two and all that other stuff. When you're down 28-0 at the end of the first quarter, you throw all that stuff out the window. What were you doing all week is what I want to know.
Yeah, game was over at that point. The Browns didn't even practice this week. They don't even need practice, right? Do I think this is the worst Steelers playoff loss under Mike Tomlin? I don't know. It's close. That Denver Broncos loss, Tim Tebow loss, was a pretty bad one. But the Jacksonville one was also pretty bad. But Jacksonville was good that year. Blake Bortles stunk. But this ranks right up there with both of those. This is just a horrible start. What was Ben and what was James Conner doing? They're just watching the football. And that just got things started. And Ben with the high throw interception. And at that point, 14 points off turnovers real quick. And to me, I just felt that the game was over at that point.
Guys, this wasn't just the worst loss of the Mike Tomlin era. It was the biggest implosion, perhaps, in the history of Pittsburgh sports. This team was 11-0. This team was a legit Super Bowl contender. We were all talking about 16-0 back in November. And not only did they only win one game after that, they got lucky to win that game against the Colts and just absolutely embarrassed themselves before the entire country tonight. Ben Roethlisberger's partly to blame. He turned the ball over 4 times. That's unacceptable. But I thought just as unacceptable was this supposedly great Steelers defense. That was a fraudulent performance. They were pushed around all game. I have never seen a Steelers defense that is supposedly a great defense look as soft as it did tonight. Just an embarrassing performance for the entire organization. I didn't think they would lose that game tonight, but in retrospect, we should have seen this coming. Something has been wrong with this team for about 6 or 7 weeks now.
And you're right. You look back at that Cincinnati game, and I think a lot of us thought, okay, well, that's just one of those games. They let down, blah, blah, blah. And the Colts game, you're right, Josh, it could have been an 0-6 end to this season. Now it obviously demands a lot of introspection. They're going to have to think. Rich, I want to start with you on this one. You look at, there's going to be changes. There's no question. There has to be because, as I mentioned, this is the 3rd straight year. Where do you start with the changes? Does it include the coaching staff? We'll get into the players in a second. Let's start with the coaching staff. Who returns, who doesn't?
That's a good question. I mean, I would, if it's up to me, I'd really look closely at who your offensive and defensive coordinators are. I know, this defense was one of the best, and they got the sack record and everything. But you really got to identify, is Keith Butler the right guy to run this defense right now? What about Randy Fichtner on offense? I know Ben does a lot of the play calling, but that offense was horrible down the stretch. I mean, I think you need to just clean house altogether and start over, coaches and some players that you can. I mean, I know we're going to get into this later, but I don't know if I would bring Ben Roethlisberger back.
Yeah, we'll get into that for sure because that's going to be one of the big things. Paul?
I think the entire organization needs an enema right now. That's the biggest problem. They've got too many people that have been there for way too long. They need to flush the whole thing out and really start to have hard, legitimate conversations about what they're going to do for the future and stop trying to dabble. I know they won 12 games, yada, yada. We could sit here and basically go through all 12 of those games, and really they're a bounce of the football away from an 8-8 season. They're probably closer to that than they are to a Super Bowl. So they need to have some real hard conversations about what needs to happen. But the one thing that needs to happen is they need a whole lot of change because it's stale. The coaching staff is stale. The ideology is stale. Everything about this team is stale. They need a change.
And when you look at the big picture, guys, look at Baltimore, look at Cleveland. They're not going anywhere. These are teams that are presumably going to be very good for the next 5 years. Joe Burrow, even in Cincinnati, who knows? Maybe they will turn it around. It's hard to feel very good about the Steelers' short-term future right now. I think Mike Tomlin's a really good coach, but it's very fair to question some of that staff. And with what went wrong in the last 6 weeks, I'll blame the players for some of it and injuries also. But boy, that did not look like a well-prepared football team tonight. Playing against a team that did not have its head coach and had barely practiced all week. They were woefully unprepared in my opinion.
And that's the biggest concern because this has been a recurring theme here. The Steelers have started awfully bad in each of their first quarters for the past 11 games now. They haven't scored points in 8 of their first possessions of first quarters. Many of them have been 3 and out. You know, so Paul, when you look at it from that point of view, it has to point to preparation. You know, they talk about the first 15 plays of Randy Fichtner's offense is scripted. Those are the worst 15 plays of the game. They get most of their points in yardage afterwards.
And that's a problem. And again, I think most of us have really watched this Steelers team and said that Randy Fichtner is just not really a good coach for the job. He's in over his head. His offense is not very imaginative. They don't scare anybody. They don't trick anybody. They're so predictable at what they do. Why wouldn't it be 8 or 9 games where they, or whatever it's been, where they don't get anything out of the first quarter? Mike Tomlin, if he really wants to preserve his legacy and give himself a chance, has got to clean out some of his coaching staff because some of these guys have just been here too long.
Paul, what is Matt Canada here for? This is what I don't understand. What is he doing? He was supposed to be an innovator. That's what he did at Pitt with the jet sweeps and all kind of misdirections. I didn't see much of that at all after the first, few games of the year. Why didn't they utilize him more? That's what makes me think that Ben Roethlisberger is running this offense, not so much Randy Fichtner.
I agree with that, Richie. But you know what it all goes back to with the offense to me more than anything? They can't run the ball at all. Right. I know they did a little bit tonight early, but they just can't run the ball. I don't care. I realize Ben's physical skills were beginning to erode. Well, okay, if you could run the ball a little bit, maybe you'd have a chance, but you're giving the ball to Derek Watt on 2 straight 3rd and 1s. That's how desperate they are to run the ball. They can't do it. If you can't run the ball a little bit in the NFL, I don't care how great the rest of your team is, and this team isn't that great, but you just have no chance.
Hey, we have a lot coming up, and we're going to get into some personnel-specific decisions, also decisions in this game that, to me, were very questionable. We're going to talk about those as we continue, but we'll take a break right now and remind you that this goes on until after midnight tonight, so stick with us. It's the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. Plenty to discuss, plenty to break down as the Steelers end the season losing 5 of 6 after starting 11-0. We're coming back with more right here on the #1 Cochran Sports Showdown. The #1 Cochran Sports Showdown is brought to you by #1 Cochran, Go One Better, and by Highmark Blue Cross Blue Shield. Have a greater hand in your health.